Next up, we got Eagles trade Haason Reddick to the Jets. Oh my God, I ain't gonna lie. It's been so many crazy trades now. Now, I'm not too aware of Haason Reddick. I have been hearing his name a lot. But I know that the Eagles really loved him on their team. So this trade, jeez, what did they even get? We gonna see. Check out microphone. You know what I'm saying? Hit the like button, subscribe button. Let's just hop into it.
Haason Reddick to the New York Jets. That is
To the
Reddick spent the past 2 seasons with the Eagles, was named to the Pro Bowl in each of those. Philly will receive a conditional 2026 third-round pick, which...
As a Dallas Cowboys fan, I need to ask all Philadelphia Eagles fans one question. What is it like to have your front office actually make moves to improve your roster? The Philadelphia Eagles just made a huge trade with the New York Jets. We're going to cover each and every aspect of it and why they would do such a thing. So before we get to the content, we are currently racing my Flight Mike basketball channel to 1 million subscribers.
He was a bum, so not surprised. Really? I keep hearing his name like he was sweet. So
make sure
I don't
you
know.
check your subscribe, turn on your
subscribe to microphone, y'all.
By releasing Kevin Byard before making their
he old?
By signing Saquon Barkley to
he don't seem that old though.
To be the engine of their offense, but they didn't stop there. My favorite move of their offseason so far was signing edge rusher Bryce Huff. Now, at the time, I didn't even know about this. Why would the Philadelphia Eagles do such a thing? They already had Haason Reddick that was coming off of a 16-sack season in year 1 for the Philadelphia Eagles, on route to making an appearance in the Super Bowl and finishing as an All-Pro. Then this past year, when they were questioning whether or not they should keep Haason Reddick, came back and got another double-digit sack season for the Philadelphia Eagles. At the same time, the Eagles had questions about whether or not they would even be able to retain Haason Reddick. On one hand, Haason Reddick is going into his age 30 season. The other hand, Bryce Huff is following a similar trajectory himself, coming in with a 10-sack season with the New York Jets last year. So obviously,
even if you are somewhat decent, it's still a business at the end of the day. They will trade your ass at the slightest inconvenience. No cap. No cap. That's tough.
Would want to do
but somebody who's basically just like you,
younger at that edge rusher position, and they're not in the market to be able to hand off lucrative contracts to aging stars. And with respect to Haason Reddick, that's exactly what he is. The Eagles are currently in good shape for the salary cap this season, with $32 million of cap space left, but things are going to get really ugly for this team next season, and they had to figure out a way to make sure that they could cut some of their salary cap space, because it's only a matter of time before Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown start eating into the Philadelphia Eagles cap space. And then on top of that, you want to figure out what you're going to do with Devontae Smith, who is in line for a contract extension. So there is only one path for the Philadelphia Eagles here in order to make sure that they can sustain their level of excellence for the foreseeable future, especially because it seems like the NFC East is wide open, and this is coming from a Cowboy fan. You have the Washington Commanders that are currently rebuilding. You got Dan Quinn from the Dallas Cowboys alongside Dorrance Armstrong, Tyler Biadasz, Austin Eckler, and a bunch of other marquee free agents to go over, some of them being former Cowboys. And then you have the Dallas Cowboys, who are unsure if Dak Prescott is going to be their starter for the foreseeable future. So making sure that you have salary cap flexibility is going to make all the difference. But even furthermore, the Eagles have been notorious for hoarding young talent on their defensive line, whether it's drafting Nolan Smith to pair with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, the acquisition of Bryce Huff, or the signing of Devin White. So with all that being said, it seemed like there was only one reasonable path for Haason Reddick, and that's to trade him. And that's what the Philadelphia Eagles decided to do. Because according to Adam Schefter, we have a trade. The Philadelphia Eagles are sending their edge rusher, Haason Reddick, to the New York Jets for a conditional 2026 third-round pick that could be a second-round pick, sources tell ESPN. The protections on the pick is the 2026 pick becomes a second if Reddick has 67.5% playtime this season and has 10 or more sacks. If not, it's a 2023 third-round pick. Now,
so it depends on how you play. That's funny.
With the Jets and is now entering the final year year of his contract. If the New York Jets don't extend him and he leaves in free agency, the Jets would get a compensatory pick. So they're giving up a pick, and if they lose him, they would get one back. Now, I have multiple thoughts about this. On one hand, I believe that Vance McDonald was about to get his opportunity to shine now that Bryce Huff went to the Philadelphia Eagles. It's kind of funny because, and Sauce Gardner says this straight up, it's almost as if the New York Jets traded Bryce Huff straight up for Haason Reddick. Sauce Gardner even said that the GM convo had to go like this. Joe Douglas, I showed love to you and gave y'all Bryce, and this is how you're gonna do me? Howie said, you're right, Joe. In this particular instance, it's very difficult to say which player is better between Haason Reddick and Bryce Huff, because if you take a look at their snaps, according to Next Gen Snaps, Haason Reddick played twice as many snaps on early downs last season compared to former Jet Bryce Huff, generating 17 more pressures than him on such downs.
Dang.
Reddick was one of 3 players to record 6 or more pressures in 8 games in 2023. You can't really look at this and say that one player is better than the other. There's just a completely different package around each and every player. Haason Reddick is significantly more proven, but he's significantly older than Bryce Huff. For all you know, he could turn in a bad season at any point. But historically, it seems like aging edge rushers, when placed in the right situations, could put together remarkable seasons for you. I mean, think about how well Khalil Mack did this past year for the Los Angeles Chargers. The man had
But Khalil Mack is Khalil Mack, though.
For crying out loud, the most he's had in his entire career. And this is after not having a double-digit sack season since his first season in Chicago 6 years ago. So you can't really pick
that's kinda
when
crazy.
it comes to Bryce Huff versus Haason Reddick, because Bryce Huff has had significantly less playing time. His average time to pressure is a little bit higher than Haason Reddick's, but he's significantly younger. The upside for Bryce Huff is definitely there, but in my opinion, you can't really go wrong here. The New York Jets just didn't want to be left at the altar at the edge rusher position, so I could very much respect this move for them. They didn't really have to give up much in order to get this done either. Now, here's where it gets really crazy. When you take a step back and look at the New York entire team, this team is absolutely terrifying. Now, of course, they need to stay fully healthy, and historically, there were questions about whether or not this team would be able to stay fully healthy, but let's just assume here. I mean, on offense, you got Aaron Rodgers. Backing him up, you have Tyrod Taylor and Zach Wilson. At running back, you have Breece Hall. At wide receiver, you have Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, Xavier Gibson, and Alan Lazard. At tight end, you have Tyler Conklin. Your offensive line looks nasty, especially if you stay healthy, with Tyron Smith, John Simpson, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Morgan Moses. And bear in mind, this is a team that still has the 10th overall pick in the NFL draft. They could go O-line, they could go wide receiver, they could also decide to sit pat and take Brock Bowers at tight end. And then you look at this team on defense, and it's absolutely stacked. They have the best defensive tackle in football, which I know it sounds really weird to say that, in Quinnen Williams. They signed Javon Kinlaw. They also have Solomon Thomas rotating in with them. At defensive end, you have Jermaine Johnson, who had a breakout season last year, and backing him up, you have Will McDonald, who was also a former first-round pick. Then you just traded for Haason Reddick. You're pairing him with CJ Mosley. And then you get to your DBs, and you have Sauce Gardner, Chuck Clark, and DJ Reed. I mean, obviously, there's a question.
Jets looking like little compy. Okay, Jets.
Healthy. And historically, the reason why the Jets weren't able to succeed was because they weren't ever able to stay healthy. But if they can stay healthy, which is a big if, this team looks like one of the scariest rosters in the entire NFL, assuming that they could stay healthy. And again, as a Cowboy fan, I've seen Tyron Smith go down with injuries way too many times. We all know what happened with Aaron Rodgers this past season.
Is Aaron Rodgers going to be able to play next season? Hopefully he will.
But again, assuming that they don't deal with any injuries, this is one of the scariest rosters in the entire NFL, and their division is also stacked, so I can't wait to see the head-to-head matchups between the Jets and the Bills and the Jets and the Dolphins. I think this has been a very impressive offseason for the New York Jets, but at the end of the day, a third-round pick for a team that's going all in for an edge rusher that has had double-digit sacks over the past 4 seasons of his career, despite being on 3 separate teams, is an absolute no-brainer. For the New York Jets, I give them an A+, not because they moved on from Bryce Huff for Haason Reddick, but because this is a very intelligent investment of their assets in order to make sure that they get someone that is capable of getting after the quarterback. For the Philadelphia Philadelphia Eagles, I think this move for them makes the most sense. They're consistently trying to get
that
younger
is.
at the defensive line position, and they've been doing a remarkable job at doing that. Last year, they lost Javon Hargrave, and they replaced him with Jalen Carter. They took flyers on players like Nolan Smith.
They literally, dang, so literally every old player that's replaced it with somebody who's damn near the same, but younger. You know what I mean? It might be better because they're younger. And like I said, that's what's the kind of the messed up part about it. But at the same time, it's a business at the end of the day. You know, so they trying to win games, all right? Especially since last year, Eagles sold super hard. They ain't got time for nothing. They don't care at all.
Hasson, reddick,
At all.
Bryce, Huff. I don't think they could go wrong here. I think both sides are winning here. I think it's an awesome trade for both sides. Although Bryce Huff technically isn't the player that's being traded for Hasson Reddick. But let me know in the comment section down below, especially if you're a Jets fan or an Eagles fan. What do you think about this trade? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike.
Hey.